Hey everyone, and welcome back to Tax and Money Coaching with the CPA. I am a licensed CPA with just under 2 decades of experience, and today we're going to be talking about the most recent IRS layoffs and what they mean for your tax refund. As always, I try to stick to the facts and keeping politics out of our discussions. So why are these layoffs happening? As I mentioned in a prior video, one of the ways to combat inflation and maintain the same standard of living for future generations is by cutting government spending, since government spending is the key driver to inflation. That said, let's focus on the role of the IRS and how these changes might impact taxpayers. So what does the IRS do? The IRS has two main responsibilities. Number one is collecting federal income taxes. The process is fairly straightforward. You earn money, you pay taxes at the respective rate, and you can claim deductions based on the tax laws when filing a tax return. Employers, financial institutions, and other entities report your income to the IRS, ensuring they expect a return from you. So again, as you earn money, any of your employer or any financial institutions that paid you out money are required to file respective tax forms. So that would be a W-2, 1099, 1099-B, 1099 interests. Those are kind of some of the more common forms. Again, that's reporting the income, and then what happens is when you file the return, the IRS compares up those filings from those institutions and compares it to what you had reported on your tax return. The next main area is enforcing tax laws. This is done in several ways. The IRS flags returns with unusual deductions or discrepancies based on your specific tax situation. So meaning they'll take a look at your occupation, they'll take a look at what you do if you're self-employed, and they'll compare it to basically the pool of other individuals with similar like returns or like professions. They may request additional documentation. They may conduct audits either through mail or a full-scale in-person reviews of your tax situation. Some audits are also selected randomly. So there's two basic options here. There's one that's the red flag method, which basically they run almost what's known as like a risk report. So similar to what I had said, is based on your profession, based on your occupation, based on what you do as being a self-employed individual, they will run a like return within that pool. So they gather data, and then they'll say, okay, well, is it reasonable for somebody that is, say, a CPA to have more than 50% of their expenses be meals and entertainment? And if the case is no, then they might say, you know what, there may be some other discrepancies in here, and there is a high likelihood that we have a good potential of collecting additional dollars from this particular individual. So that's method number one. Method number two is strictly at random, whereas they'll select a certain percentage of random tax returns and just say, hey, okay, prove to us that you're entitled to these specific deductions. And again, if you take the standard deduction, there's not really much to worry about there. But again, that's just something to keep in mind. So what this means for audits. If you claim deductions, you must be able to support them with documentation. So again, the IRS is a little bit different. You have to prove to them that you're entitled to the deduction. You have to prove to them that you're entitled to a refund. They don't have to prove anything back to you. They simply have to say, okay, well, we have these reports that show that you received income, and we calculate your tax to be XYZ. You claimed XYZ number of deductions. Please prove to us that you're entitled to that. So again, let's kind of dig a little bit deeper into that. So the burden of proof, as I had mentioned, is on the taxpayer, not the IRS. If you lose your records, the IRS can choose to disallow your deductions, potentially increasing your tax bill with interest and penalties. Audits can be time-consuming and expensive. Most taxpayers or businesses are not equipped to handle them alone, so they often hire tax professionals for representation. If you ever face an audit, the key is to provide only the requested information, nothing more, nothing less, and to understand the tax laws so that you're able to defend your tax position in front of that IRS agent. As if you're not able to defend your tax position in front of that IRS agent can say, you know what, I do not agree with you, and therefore I'm going to disallow this deduction. The next item is the IRS has an outdated system and long wait times. The IRS operates on an outdated system that requires a lot of manual processing, leading to many errors and incorrect notices. This has also contributed to long wait times when calling the IRS, making it difficult even for tax professionals to reach an agent. Tax professionals, so anyone who doesn't know, tax professionals do have a dedicated line that you can call into if you are helping a client of yours, and that tax line is supposed to have shorter wait times and also be easier to get in contact with a specific representative or agent. I've also noticed that when calling into that tax line is that you usually get somebody that's a little bit more educated versus calling into the typical individual tax line. So again, another pro for hiring a tax professional is you don't have to wait on hold for calling into the IRS. Your tax professional can represent you as long as they are credentialed with the right credentials to represent you in front of the IRS. So CPA, enrolled agent, JD, those are the most common ones that are able to represent you through filling out a power of attorney form that you would sign. So let's kind of take a look back. So I think over the past several years, the wait times have actually been extremely high. So since COVID, there was a turnover of employees, as well as people working remote, as well as all the stimulus checks that had come out. The IRS was bombarded with lots of people calling in saying, "Where's my stimulus? How do I get my stimulus?" And it was record-breaking calls. This resulted in extremely long wait times or not even being able to get through to the IRS. And honestly, I've had that issue probably for up until about a year ago, where I probably regularly was been able to get in contact with the IRS, which probably prior to that, I definitely was not able to regularly get in contact with them. I used to have to plan it where I'd call them first thing in the morning, where I'd have a higher likelihood of being able to get connected. So this is why I'd always advise minimizing your interactions with the IRS. You want to file a complete and accurate return. Mistakes trigger reviews and delays within your refund. And then again, you have to have somebody actually touch that tax return, and then you might have to get in contact with them. So I suggest take your time. Rushing leads to errors that can slow you down and slow your refund down. Or hire a tax professional. CPA or enrolled agent can ensure the accuracy and compliance with IRS tax rules and regulations. And if there is any issues, they will be able to represent you in front of the IRS. Now, hiring somebody that's reputable is also going to be very important, as you don't want some fly-by-night tax preparer that's not credentialed. I find a credentialed tax preparer tends to be a lot better than somebody that's not credentialed, as they have sat, taken exams, studied for it, and are well-informed and also are very ethical. Again, so I would suggest just filing your return as you normally would under the normal time frame. Don't rush, because you want to minimize your touch points with the IRS, as I always say in all of my videos. So let's talk about, lastly, about how this will affect you. How will these IRS layoffs affect you in your particular tax situations? So the layoffs are part of a big planned infrastructure upgrade to improve automation and reduce taxpayer wait times with a more efficient system. Notices will be processed quicker. Currently, it's 1, 2, sometimes 3 years, just getting it in just under that deadline in order to send a notice out to a taxpayer, as they have 3 years from the date of filed or when due, whichever one is later. And then more self-service tools will be available, reducing the need for phone calls. Again, so you should be able to go online, be able to pull your transcript, which you can somewhat do now, but it's a little bit convoluted. Be able to see, maybe get frequently asked questions answered, just a lot more user-friendly, as well as maybe give tax professionals a little bit more information if you get a power of attorney into their clients' tax situations to make it a little bit easier. So again, reducing those touch points with the IRS. And then this results in the IRS being able to operate at lower costs while still collecting tax revenue more effectively and efficiently. The strain of COVID stimulus payments overwhelmed the IRS for many years. It's only recently that phone wait times have improved. The monetization effort could ultimately benefit taxpayers by streamlining processes and reducing errors, as well as notifying you timely of any tax errors or issues that may have arise, versus having to wait several weeks, months for a tax refund in order to get your tax notice and just kind of being left in limbo. Again, another reason why I always like to suggest hire a professional. Will cost you a little bit more money, but you may end up you'll save time, as well as resources and just, stress and aggravations. So, will your tax refund be delayed? For most taxpayers, I do not think so. You shouldn't expect delays due to these changes. However, if you make mistakes on your return, this can slow things down, especially with a reduction in workforce. I do anticipate wait times going up if you need to call the IRS. So you combo that with busier wait times being tax season, as well as reducing the size of the workforce. Again, there is the potential that if you do make mistakes, errors on your return, omit something out of your return, and you have to call the IRS, you may need to wait longer. So again, my suggestion is file as you normally would. Don't rush. Hire a tax professional. Ensure your return is complete and accurate. Follow the tax laws. Reduce your red flags. Don't go off of any sort of, crazy tax position that you want to take a stance on. Just be conservative, and then that way you'll end up getting your refund a lot quicker, eliminating your touch points with the IRS. By doing this, your return should be processed smoothly and your refund won't be delayed. A lot of times what happens is your tax return ends up getting electronically filed. It goes through the computer system. The IRS matches up any things that they receive from your employer or for any of the financial institutions. Make sure everything agrees. If everything agrees, your tax return will be processed. They also will cross-check it with other red flags and other common errors within the return. And if there is nothing that is noted there, the refund will just simply get processed by the computer system. It will get sent. It'll get processed. Refund will get sent, and human hands will never have to touch your return. So that's really my main reason for saying that I do not believe that majority of Americans' tax refunds will be delayed. Again, hopefully you found this video helpful and useful. If you did, please like, subscribe. Also leave a comment down below if you have any questions or just want to, interact in any way that you can. But again, thanks everybody for watching, and look forward to seeing you guys again in the next video.